Wow, everyone, look at this setup. Hey everyone, Cadams Tech here. So in today's video, I wanted to continue the junior software engineer roadmap and discuss in particular how to leverage AI. But first, if you're new to my channel, my name is Cursor Adams. I am a senior full stack software engineer living in the Denver, Colorado area. If you feel like you've gotten anything out of value from these videos, remember to like, subscribe, and share with anyone that you know is interested in learning software engineering. All right, so it's 2025, May of 2025, and things have come along quite a bit since AI was first introduced. I've been using AI professionally full-time for around 2 years now. I started with ChatGPT, and then eventually I got into GitHub Copilot and then integrated that into my IDE. But since then, there's even more powerful tooling depending on what tasks that you're doing. And in this video, I want to break down which tools you should use for which tasks. All right, so being a junior, it's very crucial that you understand what's going on from a code perspective. And some coding concepts, I will admit, took me a few years for it to sink in. But for the most part, you can get down that good 80% of what you need to know as a junior within the first year. Things that are more complex, it tends to just take time to sink in, and it has nothing to do with ability. But I want to talk about that initial 80%, that initial 80% of what you need to know as a junior. I feel like once you know this 80% and you have it down to where it's almost second nature, then it's time for you to move on to using AI with these things that are almost second nature to you. So let's just talk about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript on the front end. And then we can talk about a little bit on the back end as far as what you would leverage AI for, right? And which tools I would recommend. Now, this list and these technologies that I'm going to say, I am not sponsored by or have any affiliation with them whatsoever as of right now of May 2025. I just use them every single day on my daily workflow, and I strongly advocate for them. But there are tons of other alternatives that are just as good. So look into those. Don't take these technologies that I'm saying to you as the only way of doing things, because there are several different ways you could do the same thing. Okay, so let's break down the front end stuff real quick. HTML, CSS, JavaScript, maybe you're using React, right? You want to know the basics of each of these to the point where you feel fairly comfortable slapping some things together. You want to understand HTML, you want to understand the code, you want to understand the tags. And I made a video for HTML introduction, and I walk you through the most common tags. So check it out, follow along with it. Once you know those tags that I have mentioned in the video, then I would say, okay, HTML you can use some generated code for now. So let's move on to the next thing. CSS. You want to know how to lay things out on a page. You want to know how to color things. You want to know how to change text. You want to know how to work with images and create different layouts, like let's say a mobile layout, let's say a desktop, laptop layout. You want to play around with CSS3 media queries to change these things and do everything on a code level that I just said from a CSS standpoint. Once you understand those things that I said, raw, writing it yourself, then you can go ahead and start using AI to generate some of that stuff. For JavaScript, I haven't made a JavaScript tutorial on it yet, but I can in the future. But really what you want to do is know those 80% of the core programming concepts, and that would be this. Are you ready for it? So you want to know if, else if, and else statements, for loops, while loops, for each loops, how to create functions, how to work with arrays, how to work with variables and variable reassignment, how to work with passing different things to functions and getting different outputs out of functions. Once you know how to do that stuff programmatically, I would say you're in a good spot, and that's about 80% of most programming languages right there. All the rest of the stuff is nitty-gritty nuances and getting into crazier paradigms and concepts and things of that nature. So once you know those things, at that point, go ahead and leverage AI for a lot of that stuff. But you want to know how to write it yourself, and you want to understand what it is that's going on as a junior. Especially since, as a junior, you're pretty much expected to know 1, maybe 2 at most programming languages. You don't need to go crazy quite yet. Another thing about AI is to like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'd appreciate it. It would help push this video out to a wider audience. So on the back end, same thing that I mentioned on the front end, except learn how to use, and the same thing for both is learn how to use exception handling, so try catch statements on both, and learn how to gracefully handle exceptions and things of that nature. That's extremely critical. Otherwise, the entire application could potentially crash and not be handled gracefully. Okay, and then on the back end, same thing as the front end for programming as far as concepts, but also learn about databases, learn about how to perform different CRUD operations on the database. And CRUD stands for create, read, update, and delete. Once you learn how to do that, you pretty much, app development is going to be doing a lot of that. 80% of app development is going to be doing a lot of that, on the back end at least. Now, we need to talk about leveraging AI. How do we leverage it? What do we do? What do we even do to make us more efficient? Well, what you do is this. Say you have a task. I want you to create a login and registration system, right? Simple task, but it's a full stack feature. It's a feature that involves both UI and sending data to the server and processing that data and then inserting it into the database. So the login and registration is a great full stack flow of how an application should work, right? So what do? What I would do is I would look at the client or whoever you're doing work for, say, hey, do they have a brand theme? Do they have a certain color scheme? And if yes, drive off of that color scheme because you want to impress them and show them, hey, I built something specific to your company. If not, create your own color scheme, whatever fits the business. If it's a lawn maintenance business, do some green in there because there's a lot of grass and trees, things like that. So do some green, make it lawn colors, reference other apps and sites that are in a similar sector and see what they're doing as well. So where am I going with this? Look at the brand, get a feel for the brand internally, right? If you're doing front-end stuff, get a feel for the brand. Then pop open ChatGPT, use the paid subscription. At this point, $20 a month to GPT and $20 to Cursor, which is the next one I'm going to mention, I think is well worth it because you're spending $40 a month for something that is drastically going to improve your productivity. But if at the moment you can't afford it, I understand. Just try to use the free version to the best of your ability, but it does have some limitations and it throttles you. So after you do a certain amount of prompts, it will say no more prompts for X amount of time. So be warned about that. I'll type into ChatGPT this exact thing. So let's say we're doing login and registration. Create a UI mockup as an image for a login system and use these colors. And I would screenshot the logo or whatever of the company and paste it into another site called Get Color from Image. Upload it there, it's free. Upload it there, and then it tells you the CSS codes for each of the images or for each of the colors. You can click on different parts of the image and then it'll give you the hexadecimal or RGB values, things of that. You can copy it and then you can say, use these colors as the main theme for the login. Press enter, see what it comes up with. If you don't like it, say no, change the button, make it smaller. No, change the button, make it bigger. No, change this. Make it for mobile by default. Give me the mock-up for desktop screen sizes. And then just keep playing around with it like that. Get some ideas, and then once you have those ideas that get generated within like seconds, then you have something that you can use. Before, you used to have to draw by hand or would have to use Figma, which is a thing that you can mock up websites with. Well, now you can just use GPT to generate the mock-up image. Once you have that mock-up image, you can drive off of that. Okay, so GPT for UI image generation, there's tons of things you could use it for. So don't just keep it scoped to that. That's just primarily mostly what I use it for these days. There's other things that I do with it quick when it comes to like copy pasting code, putting it in there, asking it to tweak me things that I find can be quick. But mostly I have been using this next technology, which is what I want to tell you about, called Cursor. So Cursor is AI integrated into your IDE, and by default it looks very Visual Studio Code-like. So it has a VS Code type vibe to it, and but basically it is integrated into your entire project, your code base that you open up, and it will just suggest all kinds of really great things to you that help speed up so many keystrokes. And going from a senior and being a software engineer for 8 years now, doing it full time, I see the value in the speed that this provides. It would literally in certain cases 10 times my productivity. Things that once took me a week to build, I can build in a matter of hours, like literally 4 hours, something that took me a week to build. That's extremely powerful and can add and increase your productivity as a junior exponentially, but only if you know what you're doing. This will not work by any means. It will become a huge mess if you don't know what you're doing, which is why, once again, let's circle around to knowing the 80% of those technologies that I talked about. Okay, so let's continue on the front end part where GPT will give you that mock-up image. What will you do now? Well, once you like the mock-up image, you can say, give me the code. I use React these days, so I would say create a login component using TypeScript and React that aligns with the mock-up image that you provided. And then it'll give me the code. I'll take that code, paste it in a matter of like a minute, you have something mocked up for a login. And then at that point, now you need to build the next piece. Let's go ahead and add the route and pass the data that we need to. Now create the Axios post route for this login of /login and pass in the username and password to the server with this localhost of blah, blah, blah. It'll give me the output for that. I paste it into my component. And on the server, I would say create a server-side route in C#.NET of /login that accepts username and password as arguments, and that console logs it out for me. So then after that, I paste it in that front-end code. I'll paste in the route for that. I'll say create a controller called login controller in C#.NET that will tie into this route. Boom, paste in that code. Then I can debug it. Let's step through, let's hit the route, let's do what we need to. Let's look at the log output. Let's see if the data made it to the server. If it didn't and I have an error, let me copy that error. Let me paste it in GPT, fix this error. Or, better yet, this next technology that I'm going to mention. Okay, this next technology that I'm going to mention has been amazing. It's called Cursor. Integrates into, and it's basically an IDE, right? It's a very powerful IDE. Offers a lot of features, but it saves so many keystrokes. And basically what it is a chat similar to GPT integrated into your editor. So you can pop open a chat, type in some code and say the same thing that you would to GPT, except it can have the context of your entire code base, which is where I find it to be extremely powerful. The suggestions that it gives are absolutely spot on most of the time. You can toggle on and off different language learning models and find what best resonates with you. But I'm telling you, in terms of speeding up your productivity, to have everything in one spot rather than having to tab back and forth between GPT and it not having any context of your entire code base, things like that, Cursor seems like the great way to go. There's lots of alternatives, so try those out too. I've personally only used Cursor and I've gotten a lot of value out of that $20 a month. So yeah, so another thing with Cursor, so say I'm inside my editor and I'm in a component, I can sometimes copy the entire component and just say, hey, create another component similar to this one called blah, 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 and pop in and do it for me. And Cursor will go ahead and actually create the files and put it in your editor and do all of the work for you. Whereas GPT, it's good for like one-off things, UI image generation, and things like that I've been finding. Now, I'm not a pro at Cursor, so there could be some cool and powerful features with images within it, but so far I've still been using GPT as a separate source for handling that because it's been pretty good. So by doing these things and leveraging AI in the way that I described as a junior, and understand that as a junior, all of this is still going to take time. How you're going to get better faster as a junior is putting in more time. That's literally how you're going to do it. There's no shortcuts to this. You have to put in the time. Zero shortcut. There's no cheat code. I hate to tell you. So how you get there is just experience. So how do you get to the 80% for those technologies I mentioned? It's experience. It's being at the keyboard and typing and getting that muscle memory down and getting that confidence. The more features you build, the more clients you talk to, the more people you work for, it's just going to build your confidence because you've already been there and you've done that. How many times have I built a login and registration system in 8 years, the last 8 years? Probably about 10 or more times, I would say. I built so many personal projects in different programming languages and different technologies for login and registration systems, and more than I can count. So I've seen it time and time and time again. And when you see something like that time and time and time again, to use AI to do that heavy lifting that you understand very well is great. It's freaking great. So I must say, I don't fear AI at all, and I'm seeing the power in it. Something that once took me a week to build now takes me 4 hours. What do? Where's all that extra money and time going? You guessed it. As a freelance or doing something for yourself, you can make some decent change on some of this advanced capabilities that you can leverage now. I know several software engineers that don't even use AI right now in 2025. They're just now getting into it, some of them refuse to use it. So imagine the power that you have at your fingertips if you learn to leverage it. As a junior, you can accelerate to a mid very quickly just by learning to leverage AI. At the end of the day, you don't want to leverage AI to do a bunch of stuff that you don't understand, because if you're doing it and you need to go back in there and make a modification, it's going to be a nightmare. So don't even think about it. Don't even think about it. What I mean is, don't get ahead of yourself. If you feel like you're doing a lot of stuff with AI that you absolutely don't understand, take a step back and focus on the fundamentals. So I'm not going deep into AI in this video. I just kind of want to give you a high overview of what you should be doing with it at that point of being a junior, where you know 80% of that specific tech. And don't rush it, because you don't want to get to a point where everything is too complicated for you and confusing. Just take it one step at a time. Start slowly incorporating some AI into your workflow as you understand certain technologies, and it's going to accelerate your development process exponentially, especially with Cursor. That exponential speed from going from ChatGPT to Cursor and having the context within my editor and being able to give little agent things like different tasks to do while I focus on doing something else related to the project is extremely powerful. And we can walk through some of that on the computer together and in the future if you have an interest. So let me know if you all have tried AI, what you think about it, what you think about this topic. If you want to hear more about something regarding this topic, let me know. Always a pleasure, and hope you all enjoy this continuation of Junior Software Engineering Roadmap. And until next time, remember to like, subscribe, and share this with anyone that you know is interested in learning development.